The galaxy did not see Earth as a strong power or a respected world. It was seen as a dumping ground. Alien fleets that fought wars far away threw their broken ships and failed machines into Earth's orbit. The skies above the planet were crowded with steel bones of 1,000 battles. Some people on Earth dreamed of glory among the stars, but most only saw work in the junk. The orbital junkyard was where humans cleaned up the galaxy's trash. Eli Turner was one of those workers. He was a janitor of the stars, a man with grease on his hands and scars on his suit. Every day he floated in silence through the wreckage, his small cutting torch slicing apart alien metal older than his entire civilization. Other workers did the job without care. They followed orders, cut what needed cutting, and looked forward to the end of shift. Eli was different. He was curious. Where others saw only broken parts, he saw puzzles waiting to be solved. In the dark graveyard of ships, Eli often slowed his work to study strange pieces. Sometimes he kept them. A small shard of glass that bent light in impossible ways. A sphere that still hummed after decades of silence. A tiny data chip covered in writing no one on Earth could read. He stored these objects in a hidden locker inside his bunk. No one knew, and no one asked. Workers who asked too many questions often disappeared. One evening, Eli was assigned to dismantle the remains of a massive alien warship. It was larger than most cities on Earth. Its hull was burned and scarred, but even broken it looked powerful. The orders were simple: cut, sort, burn, and move on. But as Eli drifted deeper into the wreck, his torchlight caught something unusual. A sealed compartment that was not on the schematics. Its edges were smooth and glowing faintly, as if the metal itself was still alive. His hands shook as he cut through. Inside he found a cube. It was no larger than his fist, but it pulsed with blue light like a beating heart. As his glove brushed against it, his visor filled with alien symbols. They moved across his vision too fast to follow. For a moment he felt a whisper in his mind, a voice that was not his own. Then the light faded, and the ship around him felt colder than before. Eli's first thought was to report it. The junkyard authority demanded all unusual fines. They paid bonuses for rare metals, for alien tech, for anything useful. But deep inside, he knew this was not a simple tool. This was something dangerous. Something powerful. And something that others would kill to keep hidden. He slipped the cube into his suit pocket. His heart raced as alarms sounded nearby. His fellow workers cursed over the comms about system failures, but Eli said nothing. He pretended to keep working until his shift ended. Then he returned to the station. The orbital station where janitors lived was small and dirty. Narrow halls, dim lights, and recycled air. Eli had lived there for years, and every night felt the same. But tonight, when he walked back to his bunk, something was different. He felt eyes on him. In the mess hall, two men he had never seen before sat without eating. Their uniforms were not janitor suits. They looked too clean, too sharp. Their eyes followed him until he closed his door. Inside his room, Eli sat on his narrow bed and pulled the cube from his pocket. It glowed softly, casting strange shadows on the walls. He touched it again, and once more the symbols filled his visor. Only this time, without warning, the symbols shifted into words he could understand. A simple sentence appeared in his vision: "You are not safe here." Eli dropped the cube in shock. His breathing grew fast. Who was speaking to him? Was it the cube? Was it some alien intelligence? He did not know. But he understood one thing. Someone wanted this secret buried, and by finding it, he had stepped into a danger far beyond the life of a junkyard janitor. Outside his bunk, footsteps echoed. He turned off the lights, holding his breath. The shadows under his door showed more than one figure waiting in the hallway. They did not move. They were listening. Eli realized that the junkyard was no longer just a workplace. It had become a trap. And the cube in his hands was the key to a conspiracy that stretched across the stars. For the first time in his life, Eli Turner wished he had ignored his curiosity. But it was too late. The moment he touched the cube, his life stopped being his own. Eli sat in darkness, the cube glowing faintly in his trembling hands. The warning in his visor kept repeating in his mind. You are not safe here. He had lived most of his life in silence, ignored by the galaxy, but now he felt like every shadow wanted to swallow him whole. He placed the cube back into his locker and tried to calm his racing thoughts. The footsteps outside his room finally faded. He waited several minutes before daring to move again. When he peeked into the corridor, he saw nothing but flickering lights and old pipes dripping moisture. Yet the sense of being watched did not leave him. The two strangers he had seen earlier in the mess hall were gone, but Eli knew they had not come here by accident. The next morning, the station supervisor gave new orders. Eli and several others were told to continue dismantling the alien warship, but the tone of the command felt unusual. The supervisor looked nervous, his voice stiff. Eli wondered if word about the cube had already reached them. He kept his helmet on, avoiding eye contact with anyone, and returned to the wreck. Inside the shattered hull, Eli tried to focus on routine work, cutting beams and gathering fragments. But every time he moved deeper into the ship, he felt as if something was guiding him. His torch revealed strange symbols on the walls that no one else seemed to notice. They glowed faintly, pulsing like veins of light. When he reached out to touch them, his visor flickered again. This time the cube in his locker responded, though it was miles away. He felt it beating inside his mind. Chosen, a whisper echoed in his head. He almost dropped his torch. Chosen for what? He had never been special. He was just a janitor. When his shift ended, he hurried back to the station. But as he walked through the docking bay, two security officers stopped him. They asked to scan his tools and his suit. Their eyes were sharp, colder than ice. Eli handed over the tools with shaking hands, praying they would not search deeper. The cube was not with him, but his fear of being discovered made his body stiff. After several tense minutes, the officers let him pass, but one of them whispered into a communicator as Eli walked away. That night, Eli could not sleep. He sat in the dim glow of his bunk, staring at the cube. He wanted answers, but he also wanted to throw it away. Yet the device seemed alive, as if it was waiting for him. With hesitant fingers, he touched it again. The alien symbols filled his vision, then rearranged into words. Do not trust your leaders. Do not trust your station. They serve the enemy. Eli's breath caught in his throat. Enemy? Which enemy? The galaxy was filled with countless empires and factions. Humans were only scavengers at the edge of it all. Why would anyone consider a janitor on a scrapyard station important? Suddenly, the cube projected an image into the air. It was a star map, filled with glowing points of light. At the center was Earth, surrounded by arrows of fire. Fleets, thousands of them, converging. Eli reached out, and the image shifted, showing hidden corridors within the junkyard station itself. Rooms he had never seen. Secret chambers hidden behind walls. Before he could study more, his door shook violently. Someone was trying to open it. He snatched the cube and shoved it into his locker, sealing it as fast as he could. The lock on his door clicked once, twice, then stopped. Whoever it was had left. But Eli knew they would return. His world was collapsing around him. He had uncovered something powerful, something worth killing for. He was only a janitor, but now he stood on the edge of a conspiracy that stretched far beyond Earth's orbit. And whether he liked it or not, he was no longer invisible to the galaxy. As he sat alone in the silence, one thought pressed harder than all others. If the cube was right, then his own people were not allies. They were part of the enemy. And that meant Eli Turner had nowhere safe to run. Eli woke with a start, though he was not sure he had ever truly slept. The cube's warning echoed in his mind, and the memory of the rattling door made his stomach tighten. He dressed quickly, slipped the cube into a hidden pocket in his suit, and stepped out into the narrow corridor. The station felt different now, every light too dim, every shadow too deep. He walked toward the mess hall, trying to look ordinary, but his heart pounded with each step. Inside, workers ate their bland meals in silence. Yet Eli noticed something strange. The two men from the night before were gone, but three new faces sat at one of the far tables. Their uniforms looked wrong, too neat for janitors, and their eyes tracked him like predators watching prey. Eli forced himself to sit and eat, though each bite turned to dust in his mouth. After breakfast, the workers were assigned to new shifts. Eli expected to be sent back to the warship wreck, but his name was not on the list. Instead, He was told to report to maintenance in the lower decks. The supervisor avoided his eyes when giving the order. It felt like a trap, but refusing would only bring more attention. Eli nodded and left with heavy steps. The lower decks were silent, the hum of machinery the only sound. The corridors were narrow, lined with old pipes and flickering lights. Eli carried his toolbag, though he doubted he would need it. As he walked, he noticed something unusual, a door half hidden behind a panel, one he had never seen before. Curiosity pulled at him, stronger than fear. He checked the hall, then pried the panel open. The hidden door slid aside, revealing a passage descending deeper into the station. Eli hesitated. The cube in his pocket pulsed faintly, as if urging him forward. He stepped inside. The air was colder here, and the walls were smoother, made of alloys unlike the rest of the station. This was not part of the janitor's world. This was something else, something secret. At the end of the passage, Eli found a chamber filled with strange machines. Consoles glowed with alien symbols, and in the center stood a tall pod filled with liquid. Inside floated a figure, not human. Its skin shimmered silver, and its eyes moved even though they were closed. Eli froze, unable to breathe. What was this place? Why was it hidden beneath a human station? Before he could move, the cube activated on its own. Light filled the chamber, and the alien symbols on the consoles shifted into words he could read. A voice echoed in his visor. They made a deal. Your leaders serve us. Your world is theirs to claim. Eli stumbled back, shaking his head. No, it could not be true. Earth was weak, yes, but not traitorous. Yet the figure in the pod seemed to stir, as if responding to the cube's presence. Its silver eyes opened slowly, locking on him. Eli felt his chest tighten, his breath stolen away. The alien was awake. He turned to run, but the hidden door behind him slammed shut. Heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Voices spoke in a language he did not know, growing closer. Trapped, Eli looked around desperately for another exit. The cube pulsed harder, and new words appeared in his vision. Choose. Escape now, or be taken. Eli's hands shook as he pressed the cube against one of the glowing consoles. A surge of light shot through the chamber, and the machines roared to life. The pod cracked open, spilling liquid across the floor. The silver-skinned figure gasped as if breathing for the first time. At the same moment, a hidden panel slid open on the far wall, revealing a narrow tunnel. The voices outside grew louder. Eli made his choice. He ran for the tunnel, clutching the cube tight, his heart hammering in his chest. Behind him, the alien from the pod stepped onto the floor, eyes blazing with unnatural light. The chamber shook as if the station itself feared what had just awakened. Eli did not look back. He plunged into the tunnel, knowing his life was no longer just his own. He carried a secret that could destroy trust between Earth and the stars. And someone, human or alien, would do anything to stop him from revealing it. The tunnel was narrow and dark, its walls made of smooth metal that looked older than the station itself. Eli ran with the cube pressed tight against his chest, the faint light from it guiding his way. His breath echoed inside his helmet, and every step sounded too loud. Behind him, distant shouts and the clang of boots on steel told him the pursuers were close. He pushed harder, desperate to stay ahead. The tunnel twisted downward before opening into a small chamber lit by soft blue lights. Strange markings glowed along the walls, the same alien symbols he had seen before. As he slowed to catch his breath, he realized he was not alone. The silver-skinned figure from the pod stood at the far side of the chamber. Its eyes glowed faintly, watching him without blinking. Eli froze, unsure whether to run or fight. The alien spoke, though its lips barely moved. The words formed directly in Eli's mind. The cube chose you. Do not fear me. Eli's hands shook as he raised the cube defensively. What are you? Why are you here? The alien tilted its head, as if trying to recall words it had not used for centuries. I am prisoner. This station hides truths. Your kind made bargain with my enemies. They serve those who seek to erase all resistance. The cube carries memory. That is why they hunt you. Eli wanted to deny it, to shout that humans were not traitors, that they were only cleaners of galactic scrap. But the fear in his supervisor's eyes, the hidden chamber, the strange guards, everything pointed to the alien's words being true. Before he could reply, the sound of the hidden door opening filled the chamber. Heavy footsteps entered the tunnel behind him. The alien's eyes flashed, and it raised a hand. A wave of energy rippled across the walls, sealing the door with a burst of heat. For a moment the chamber was quiet again. "You must leave," the alien said. "There are ships hidden among the wrecks. I can show you a path out. But once you leave, there is no return." Eli felt his chest tighten. He was only a janitor. His whole life had been quiet shifts and recycled air. He had no weapons, no allies, no plan. But the cube pulsed in his hands, as if agreeing with the alien. He could not go back to the life he had before. They would kill him the moment he tried. The alien stepped closer. Its presence was strange, unsettling, but not hostile. "You carry proof of their betrayal. If you escape, the galaxy may know. If you fall, the truth dies here." Eli swallowed hard and nodded. "Show me the way." The alien turned, pressing its palm against the glowing symbols on the wall. A new passage opened, revealing a long shaft leading upward. Cool air rushed through, carrying the faint smell of open space. At the top, Eli could see faint starlight. The alien looked at him once more. "Run when I say. Do not stop, no matter what you hear." The wall behind them shook violently. The sealed door was breaking under the force of their pursuers. Sparks rained down, and voices shouted in anger. The alien raised both hands, light blazing from its skin like fire. "Go now." Eli sprinted into the shaft, climbing with all his strength. The cube burned hot in his hands, filling his body with strange energy that kept him moving. Behind him, the chamber roared with thunder as the alien unleashed its power against those breaking through. The sounds of battle echoed upward, growing distant as Eli climbed higher and higher. At last, he reached the top. A hidden hatch opened into the outer shell of the station. Beyond it, the junkyard stretched wide, filled with drifting wrecks and shadows of broken ships. Eli stepped into the void, stars blazing all around him. For the first time, he was free of the station. But freedom did not mean safety. Somewhere among the wrecks, enemies were waiting. And now he carried not only the cube, but also the last hope of exposing the truth. The junkyard spread before Eli like a graveyard of forgotten wars. Shattered cruisers drifted in silence, their hulls torn open like broken bones. Twisted satellites floated in slow circles, and the remains of alien machines glimmered faintly in the starlight. Eli's breath came hard and fast as he drifted away from the station hatch, his thrusters pushing him into the cold dark. For a moment he felt free. No walls, no guards, no footsteps behind him. Only endless stars and silent wreckage. But the cube in his hand pulsed with warning. Its glow brightened, then dimmed, like a heartbeat reminding him that danger had not passed. Eli turned, and his stomach sank. Small lights were moving out of the station. Pursuers. They had suits and thrusters, and they were heading straight for him. Eli pushed harder on his thrusters, weaving between the broken frames of ships. He moved past a massive engine core, then ducked under the wing of a shattered carrier. The junkyard was a maze, and he knew its pathways better than most. Years of work had given him a map inside his head. But now it was not about cutting and cleaning. It was about survival. The voices of his hunters crackled faintly on open comms. He could not understand the alien language, but their tone was sharp, urgent. They wanted him alive. That thought made him shiver. Alive meant questions. Alive meant torture. He gripped the cube tighter and kept moving. Then the cube projected a faint line of light, guiding him through the wrecks. He followed it without hesitation. The line led deeper, past ships so old even the janitors had never touched them. Here the wreckage grew thick, piled high in silent mountains of steel. Eli slipped through a narrow gap, and the line ended at a shadowed shape half buried in debris. It was a ship. Small, sleek, and unlike anything he had seen before. Its hull was smooth and dark, almost blending with the void. As Eli touched its surface, lights flickered to life. The airlock hissed open. The cube pulsed once, then grew still, as if satisfied. Eli climbed inside. The airlock sealed behind him, and the interior lights glowed faint blue. The ship felt alive, its walls humming softly. He moved toward the cockpit, where alien symbols lit the controls. For a moment he stood frozen, unsure how to fly. Then the cube floated from his hands, sliding into a slot near the console. The entire ship shuddered, and the systems roared awake. Symbols shifted into words he could read. Pilot recognized. Escape possible. Pursuers closing. Eli dropped into the seat, gripping the controls. He had no training, no idea what buttons to press, but the ship seemed to respond to his thoughts. As his eyes darted to the screen showing enemy signals closing in, the engines hummed louder. The wrecks outside began to shift as the ship powered up. The hunters arrived just as the ship lifted free from its resting place. They fired bursts of energy, striking the debris around him. Eli gritted his teeth and willed the ship to move. It responded instantly, surging forward through the maze of broken metal. Beams of light cut past him, grazing the hull, but the alien craft twisted and rolled with impossible speed. For the first time, Eli felt the thrill of flying. Not as a worker tethered to scraps, but as a man escaping into the unknown. He pushed harder, weaving through the junkyard like a shadow. Explosions lit the darkness as his pursuers crashed into wrecks or fired blindly after him. Still, they did not give up. More signals appeared on the scanner, closing in from the edges of the field. Eli's heart raced. He was trapped between the hunters and the endless debris. The cube's voice echoed in his mind again. Trust the ship. Do not turn back. Eli's eyes locked on the stars beyond the wrecks. With one final push, he willed the ship to break free. The engines roared, the debris blurred past, and the junkyard fell behind. In seconds, he burst into open space, leaving the hunters scrambling in his wake. But escape was only the first step. Ahead of him stretched the galaxy, vast, dangerous, and waiting. Eli Turner, once only a janitor of junk, was now the carrier of a secret that could tear empires apart. And the galaxy would not let him go so easily. The alien ship moved smoothly through the dark of space, its engines humming like a steady heartbeat. Eli sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the endless stars ahead. The cube rested in its slot, glowing faintly as if alive. For the first time since he had found it, the cube spoke with clarity. The truth is within. Do you wish to see it? Eli hesitated, then nodded. The cockpit dimmed, and light filled his vision. Memories not his own poured into him. He saw humans shaking hands with beings of shadow, their faces hidden but their power clear. He saw documents signed, agreements made in silence. Earth's leaders had traded loyalty for survival, offering their people as workers, their planet as a dumping ground, in return for safety from destruction. The junkyard was not just trash. It was a disguise for prisons, weapons, and secrets the galaxy wanted buried. Eli gasped, pulling back as the visions ended. His chest tightened with anger. All his life, he had thought humans were victims, treated as less by stronger empires. But now he knew the truth. They had chosen this role. They had bent the knee willingly. And anyone who asked questions was silenced. Before he could collect his thoughts, alarms blared. The scanner lit up with incoming ships. Not junkyard hunters this time, but larger vessels, armed and organized. The enemy had sent reinforcements. The cube pulsed again. Choice stands before you. Hide, and live as prey. Or fight, and risk all. Eli's hands trembled on the controls. He was no soldier, no hero. He was only a janitor. But he remembered the silver-skinned prisoner, the chamber of secrets, the warnings carved into the walls. He thought of every worker who had vanished for asking the wrong question. If he stayed silent now, the lie would continue. He pressed the controls forward. The alien ship surged ahead, engines roaring. The pursuers closed in, weapons locking on target. Eli gritted his teeth, his mind racing. The cube lit the cockpit with streams of symbols, guiding him. The ship moved like it was alive, dodging fire, weaving between blasts of energy. Through the chaos, the cube projected one final image, a beacon station far beyond the junkyard, one that broadcast signals across the galaxy. If Eli reached it, the truth could be sent to every world. The galaxy would know of the betrayal. Eli's heart pounded as he turned toward the beacon's coordinates. Behind him, fire and light filled the void, hunters chasing with fury. But ahead, through the endless dark, shone the faint promise of revelation. He whispered to himself, his voice steady for the first time. I was just a janitor. But now I'll make them hear. And with the cube burning bright, Eli Turner flew into the storm, carrying the secret that could ignite a war and free humanity from the chains it never knew it wore.